Section 6.4, we're going to look at three special techniques. The first two here are dealing with perfect squares. We're going to look at perfect square trinomials. These are three terms where the first term is a perfect square and the last term is a perfect square. And your middle term is made up of multiplying the a and the c together and doubling it. Difference of perfect squares, we'll look at that in the next video. But since we're talking a lot of perfect squares here, it's a good idea to start to memorize these numbers. This is 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, 6 squared, 7 squared, 8 squared, 9 squared, 10 squared, 11 squared, 12 squared, 13 squared, 14 squared, 15 squared, which means we can take the square root of these numbers, and of course we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now, for a perfect square trinomial, before I forget, what are variables that are perfect squares? X to the second power, x to the fourth power, x to any even power will be considered a perfect square. So here is my two possible binomial squares that I want for an answer. If I have a plus c, it's a binomial being squared with a plus. You write it out twice. You FOIL it all out. These two terms are exactly the same. So that's why we have 2 times acx. If I have ax minus c, that's squared, which is what my answer is going to look like. You write it out twice. You FOIL it out. These two middle terms exactly the same. So that's why you have a minus 2. We just multiply one of them by 2. So if I have x squared minus 4x plus 4, the concept here in its simplest form is to say, hey, look, that's a perfect square. That's a perfect square. Let's see if this is a binomial squared. So you take the square root of the first term, square root of the last term, and you keep the sign of the middle term. So square root of x squared is x. Keep the sign of the middle term minus. Square root of 4 is 2. And to double check to make sure you're right, you have to obtain this 4 minus 4x here. So x times the minus 2 and another 2 times minus 2 times x gives you these two minus 2x's, which are right here. They combine to be a negative 4x. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say, what's x times negative 2? Negative 2x, then double it. There's the negative 4x, and yep, that's the way it factors. So looking at some examples here, perfect square, perfect square. Plus in the middle, I'm thinking x plus 5. Take the square root of the first and last, and it's my binomial being squared. Just don't forget the power 2. Check the middle term. X times 5 is 5x. Double it to 10x. Yep, you're done. That's the way it factors. X squared minus 8x plus 16. Perfect square, perfect square. I'm thinking x minus square root of 16, 4. Binomial squared. Check the middle term. X times minus 4 is minus 4x. There's two of them. Double it. Minus 8x. There is your middle term. We're done. X squared plus 10x plus 9. I'm thinking x plus 3 squared. Wait a minute. X times 3 is 3x doubled to a 6x. That's not my 10x. That's not right. Okay, we're not done. And in fact, if you look at these other examples, notice how the middle term is less than the constant. In this case, it wasn't. There's a good indicator then that it's not a perfect square trinomial. Erase your work. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. We've got a plus 9. The signs are the same. X plus something, x plus something. What two numbers multiply to be 9 and add up to be 10? 1 and 9. Now we're done. 4x squared minus 24x plus 36. This looks perfect square, but notice every number is divisible by 4. Even though it's ready to be tried as a perfect square trinomial, you want to take the 4 out first. Don't worry, your perfect squares still exist. This would be an x minus a 3. Take the square root of 9, 3. Check it. X times minus 3 is minus 3x, doubled to minus 6x. That's the way it factors. We're done. 16x squared plus 24x plus 9. Perfect square, perfect square. Okay, the square root of 16x squared. 4x, square root of 9 is 3. Plus on the middle term. Check your middle term. 4x times 3 is 12x. Double that to 24x. It's a match. We're done. 9x squared minus 42x plus 49. All right, here we go. I'm thinking 3x, square root of this term, minus the square root of 49 is 7. Binomial squared. Middle term check. 3x times the negative 7 is negative 21x. Double that is a negative 42x. It's a match. We're done. And that's our perfect square trinomials.